Test, test.
Good evening. Welcome to the Tuesday, March 12th, 2024 regular meeting of the Stoughton School Committee. This meeting is being recorded by SMAC for future broadcasting. Please rise if you're able for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The first item on the agenda is public comment. Do we have anyone signed up for public comment? All right. The next item on the agenda is the superintendent update, and I'm going to hand over to Dr. Baeta.
One is that the first action I have in the superintendent's update is you have a handout for me on the New England Association of School and Colleges visit that is planned for April 7th through the 10th. And folks from the school committee are being asked to meet with the visiting committee on the 8th, that is Monday. at 2:30 or 3 o'clock, and it'll be about 30 minutes, and it'll be at the high school. So if you want to think about that over the next few weeks, then through the chair, we can get a couple of you to speak to the commission. The Hall of Fame is this Friday at the high school, and I'll be providing some further information on that with communication out to the media. I've noted that you needed to forward to me, if interested, a letter to Senator Timilty on financial and other needs from the Commonwealth. So far, I've got one, and if you could get it to me electronically by the 14th, and signed, then I could package it on your behalf and send it forward if you so wish. But it's due on the 15th. And then I've asked Dr. Quealy to come to the school committee in April, as well as our curriculum team in April, to bring the committee up to date on various things that are taking place throughout the district that I think is important for the committee to have. And then lastly, we did receive information on Friday of last week that the homeless shelter funds collection for October 3rd to March 1st, minus any October 3rd to December that have already been paid, is being collected. So that's the $104.89 times each of the students that are in our SIMS data within March 1st. We should be seeing some type of financial relief in late April into early May, and then the last payment into the early summer. Okay, I'll keep you updated as I have further information on that.
Thank you, Dr. Bayetta. Any questions or comments from the committee? I have one. I was asked about the status of the electric vehicle chargers at the high school. I know that we passed the policy at the last meeting, and a couple of months ago we passed the rate, and just wanted to see what the status of that, if they're expected to go active soon. Thank you very much. All right. If there's nothing else, I'd like to turn it over to our Student Advisory Committee representative for an update, Ms. Morgan Gropey.
Hi. So this past week we had our midterm reports come out for the school. On top of that, our spring sports registration has opened recently, so those numbers have been rolling in, and those tryouts will be beginning on Monday for all of our sports. Our drama cast has just started a new production. We also have had a lot of students starting their internships as seniors, which is very exciting for those students. And besides that, everyone's just rolling through to the spring.
Thank you very much. Any questions or comments for our student representative? All right. Thank you very much. Good luck to all students with all the activities going on at the high school. All right. The next item on the agenda is new business, and we first have a proposal for hosting the U.S. Band State Championship at the Stoughton High School and related sites on Saturday, October 26, 2024. And I would like to turn it over to Mr. Mange for the presentation.
Okay, I'll start again then. Good evening, members of the school committee, Dr. Ford, Dr. Bayetta. I am here with several members of our organizations that support the music programs in this town. My name is John Mange. I'm the K-12 Director of Fine Arts. And we would like to speak briefly about an agenda item for your discussion and consideration, which is the prospect of hosting the 2024 U.S. Band's Massachusetts State Marching Band Championship here in the town of Stoughton. So before we go into any details about that, I would like to welcome to the table Emily Hong, who is our band vice president. Emily?
Hello, my name is Emily Hong, and I'm a senior at Stoughton High. I'm the vice president of the band, and I'm also here with my other fellow leaders. Although I am a senior, I believe that the final marks seniors have before leaving high school has the biggest impact at any point during the season, no matter what sport or club activity that you are in. Hosting a band competition on our own fields will give an immense amount of unexchangeable experiences for the students. If I can play any role in helping to make that happen for the future leaders of the band, then I will graduate happily, knowing that my underclassmen friends will have the same experiences as me. Thank you for everything and the immense amount of support you have given us throughout the years. I truly am proud to be a part of this community. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
So I'm not sure what questions you may have about the program. It's coming on the heels of a very successful previous fall event that we held here on October, I think it was 18th. Was it the 18th? Pretty cool event. Went very, very well. We had a lot of people step up and make it a great success. So that is a lot of the reason why we've been approached this year to host this elevated opportunity. And we think that it's for our programs and for the school, we think it's a advantageous prospect compared to even what we had last year. So was there anything in the proposal that you wanted to ask, or would you like me to talk in more detail about it before you?
Does the committee have any questions, any comments? Oh, Mr. Bowes, I'm not if you can.
There's the use of the buildings. I was wondering what the buildings are going to be used for.
Yeah, it's going to use now it's really going to depend on how many bands end up signing up for this event. So it could be, 15 bands, could be 20 bands. If it's that many bands, then we're talking about maybe the high school, middle school, and perhaps the Wilkins as well, and maybe the recreation fields.
How would these be monitored?
Yeah, they'd be monitored by parent volunteers. Mm-hmm. Yeah, of course, the bands also come with their own professional staffs. So there's a lot of adult presence with each of these groups. They're all being overseen by caption heads and directors and whatnot.
Any other questions, comments? I just want to say that I attended the event this last fall. Unfortunately, it was raining, but you guys did a great job bearing with that. And I want to say that as I was leaving, there were a lot of people who had no idea who I was, people from out of town, and they were very complimentary of the way the event was run, and very complimentary of the facilities. And I think that, given that, I have a lot of confidence in our ability to host this and host as well. But it was great to overhear all these people like, oh my gosh, if we had that, overhang over by the concession stand, and if we had this. So
it's a fantastic facility for the event, and the organization of it is a huge credit to our parents who help us with all these things. We're very grateful to them for that. Yeah.
All right. If there are any other questions or comments, if I could have a motion, you want us to approve this application? Is that what we're looking for? Okay. So approving the request to host the U.S. Band State Championship at the Stoughton High School and related sites on October 26th. Possible rain date of October 27th if available.
So moved.
All right. So motion is made by Lindsay. Second. Seconded by Fabian. It's been moved and seconded. Vote.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, the motion is carried 4-0. So best of luck to the bands. Here's hoping the weather cooperates this year.
Yes, thank you so much for your support. We really appreciate it. Yes.
All right. The next item on the agenda is the Oasis Health Survey results presentation, and I'd like to turn that over to Ms. Stephanie Patton. I know you would like to throw up some slides, and we might need a moment for a technical.
Possible.
All right.
Yeah, if you want to. All right. And we're plugging it over there, and I'm going to sit here. Is that how?
Yes.
Yes? Okay. We're not going to disturb the thing that's up there, are we?
We have a virtual presenter after you, so as long as you don't log us out. Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
I don't know that anyone is online.
Yeah, you might have to just use that laptop right after.
Use this one? Or can I use?
Can you project?
Yeah.
We're open.
Go for it.
That's the plan.
Stand by for technical difficulties. We'll be back in a second.
You know what? Danielle can click for me, so it doesn't matter. I'm happy to sit there.
No one's on the meet right now.
We have one presenter, and it's the next person, so Lindsay can always manage.
Okay. Let's see what happens. Is it up? Didn't like me as a Wilkins either the last time we tried to use one of these TVs. So if that's the case.
No one's on the Google Meet right there, so if you want to like
Just minimize them.
HDMI right in, can you do that to your?
I don't know. like take the cable here and.
Yeah.
Don't want to break anything. That would be a
Do you
bad
have,
way
do you
to
have an
start.
HDMI thing on this?
No, but it's
Oh.
here, it's through the adapter.
Yeah.
If you think that's what's messing with it, it's okay. You know what you guys have in front of you is probably close enough, and I can, it's fine.
Yeah.
That's right. That's why I like it. Yeah,
You can.
teenage daughters would be like,
Which is really cool, and it's like, it's awesome.
Sometimes
I don't know how
plugging in
it's
upside
there,
down.
but yeah.
This-
If you're right side up, upside
this-
down, right side up,
it's
and
okay.
then magically works.
We don't need to waste time doing that. It's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah,
All right.
I'm sure. Because I'm always prepared to just do it.
So introducing Miss Stephanie Patton from OASIS for the health survey results, unfortunately without slides, but we will have slides.
But we'll, I'll describe them really well or something, right? You guys have the slides in front of you, most of them, so. Thank you for having me. I am so grateful to be here and to be able to talk to you all about the findings from the 2024 Stoughton Youth Health Survey. It's pretty exciting because this is the first full youth health survey we have done since 2019. And so I know there were a lot of folks who are waiting excitedly for these results. And so, so that is exciting. I want to sort of say the sort of context for this, what I'm going to share with you. There are a couple things that I always think about when I share data. So one is I really want to make sure we're balancing both hope and concern. So you're going to see a lot of stuff in the data that is really hopeful. Most of our kids are making really good choices, which is really always incredible to see. It's always true. This is true for kids not just here in Stoughton, but across the Commonwealth and across the country. And there's some work we need to do. And there are some behaviors that are concerning. And so, we're going to hold both of those things at the same time. Lots of good decisions, awesome things happening, and there's some stuff we need to do together. The data provides us with a lot of insight, but not all the answers. So it's data. So I've had the opportunity to work with high school and the middle school administrators and the guidance staff, and we've been looking at some of this stuff and asking a lot of really great questions and really thinking about why some of these things might mean what they do. And so, a lot of times the data just generates more curiosity, which is great, and it gives us a great place to work from. And then also just, as you all know, a lot of these are complex challenges, the things around substance misuse and bullying, and they require all of us to kind of come together and collaborate and think about complex solutions. So I appreciate being able to be here in front of all of you talking about this. So just some background on the survey itself. So we administered the survey on February 8th, 2024. It was administered electronically at the high school and the middle school. We use SurveyMonkey to do that because we've talked about using Google in the past. We don't want students to at all think that that the Google form or something is at all connected to their identity. It's really important to us that the survey is anonymous and confidential, and that students feel that it's anonymous and confidential in taking of it. It's based on the CDC's Youth Risk Behavior Survey, so big national instrument. Our survey mostly reflects a lot of that, and then there are some questions that over the years we have pulled in from other instruments that are important to Stoughton and are reflective of our experience. At the high school, we collected 742 valid surveys, and at the middle school, 690. So our response rate at the middle school was about 82%. At the high school, it was about 67%. So that sample there were students who were absent that day. There were some students we pulled for inconsistent answering on the survey. So we work with an independent evaluator, and she has her ways of knowing. And so we do pull some surveys, not a ton. Some students are opted out by their parents, also not very many. And students always have the option to opt themselves out. So sometimes that happens too. And it's February, which means there's flu and cold and stuff going around. Kids aren't in school sometimes. And we did offer the survey this year in 4 languages, which is something we were pretty excited about. So we offered it in English, Spanish, Portuguese, and Haitian Creole. We are already sort of exploring when we do this again 2 years from now, how we might be able to expand that using the technology in a way that is not cumbersome, because we were able to pull a lot more students into the instrument that way by offering it in multiple languages. So that was exciting. So the first piece that I want to share with you is just around school connectedness. And so we collected some information from students, and I think you have this in front of you around some statements about there is at least one adult in the school that I can talk to if I have a problem. I feel valued. My teachers care about me. And so the good news is at both the middle school and the high school, most students agree or strongly agree with those statements. And so all of those numbers you see are sort of on the higher end of, they're above 50%, which is exactly what we want to see. I think a lot of times when we look at those numbers, people look at them and say, wow, well, couldn't they be better? And of course, like we always this is a great place where there's opportunity for improvement. And at the same time, I think what's important about these numbers too is that when we ask students this question, we give them there's a 5-point scale. So it goes from strongly agree to strongly disagree. Very few students disagree with these statements. What we end up with is a lot of kids who say, I don't know. And I don't really know what that means, actually. So I don't know if that just means I looked at the 5-point scale and I feel sort of in the middle, or I never thought about that statement before and I just don't know the answer. So, but I think, overwhelmingly, this is positive data. We know that students who feel connected are sort of have more protective behaviors. So one of the things we look at is sometimes we can sort of we can do odds ratios and sort of cross-tabulate some of the data. And so we know that at the high school, students who felt like they were part of the school were 2.2 times less likely to use marijuana and 4.3 times more likely to not be high in school. Kids at the high school who felt like their teachers cared about them are 5.2 times more likely to not vape in school. And, the students at the middle school who felt like their teachers really cared about them were 8.7 times more likely to abstain from alcohol. So even though some of those behaviors are not happening in the building, those caring adult relationships are really, there's a relationship there between the behaviors. We can't say, I would never say that was causal. We just know there's something going on where those behaviors seem to be linked. We also know that most of our students are involved in some sort of extracurricular activity, which is fantastic. The participation rate, both at the middle school and the high school, is about 75%, which is really good. That's most of our students. Again, those kids, that seems to serve as protection for kids in terms of some behaviors. So there were some links there. We were looking at kids who are involved in extracurriculars are less likely to be in fights. They're more likely to be physically active, which kind of makes sense. A lot of those extracurriculars are sports. And actually, that at the middle school, participation in extracurriculars actually was related to increased sleep, which was kind of interesting as well. So those are some really positive, some of the things that are protective for our kids. We also, something that's important to me in particular in a lot of my work and the grants that we have is around substance misuse. And so, of course, we look at drugs and alcohol in these surveys. And so sort of the highlight of that, highlight might be the wrong word because I don't know if it's super positive, but what we're finding is that alcohol use seems to be sort of trending back up with our students. It is lower than it was in 2019, which is actually a great finding. But the good news is actually that vaping and electronic cigarette use is down with our students. And so that, we saw that dip happen during COVID. We seem to be sort of maintaining that, which is a good thing. And, with the exception of alcohol, which seems to be ticking up a little bit, most kids are making good decisions sort of across the board. Those numbers aren't really high. So that gives us also, I think, something really positive to work from. One of the things that was sort of an interesting finding about alcohol, which I think is an important message for folks at home, is what kids are telling us is their number one source for alcohol at the high school is at home with their parents' permission. And so that's a shift from how kids were acquiring alcohol in the past. And so I think that's a piece of work and some conversations I think that are important for us to be having with families and to be thinking about that because it does seem to be impacting use. There's a slide in your slide deck around 8th grade use of substances. So when we look at the middle school in its totality with substance misuse, almost 0% of our 6th graders are even experimenting with substances. That's great. We want to keep it that way. And so, sometimes I'll look at just sort of the 8th grade data to give us sort of more of a snapshot of what's happening with our trends. And so same trends. Alcohol use seems to be up a little bit. Vaping and marijuana are down. And so, and those numbers are really low at the middle school, which is a good thing, which is what we want to see. And so some of the conversations we've been having too is just around, if the rates in the survey are suppressed and they're going down, why does it feel like we're having a lot of conversations about, marijuana and vaping, and it still seems to be kind of the pervasive conversation. I think some of our staff feel like those numbers feel like they should be more elevated. So there's, as we think about the substance use piece, I think, and we think back to 2019 and we think about what's happened, particularly with vaping and marijuana products. Some of you might know that those products have evolved a lot in the last 5 or 6 years. The products, unfortunately, that are being marketed to our kids are very concealable. They make it easy for kids to use in places that are public, like schools. They don't have odors, things like the vaping devices themselves, edibles. And so I think for some of our kids who are struggling with these issues, even though they're in the minority, the issues are a little more entrenched. And so it's becoming a little more visible to us. It also gives us an opportunity to help those kids. So, it's kind of, again, that's that hope and concern, right? That most of our kids are not involved in those behaviors. I think some of our kids who are, it's more visible to us. But it does give us an opportunity to intervene. The last piece of data that I want to talk about related to the substance misuse just has to do with perception and misperception. And so it's something that we pay close attention to because when kids believe that most of their peers are using substances, it can really drive up their use. It puts them at a much higher risk for using, and our data supports that. So at the high school, what we know is that while most kids don't use alcohol, marijuana, or vape, most of them also think that all their peers do. So if you were to sort of randomly pull a high school student and said, do you think that most kids here in this building use marijuana? They're going to say, yeah, I don't, but most kids do, right? And so those misperceptions can increase their risk of using. And so that's also a piece of work that we can do, is really working on correcting those misperceptions with our kids. So that's sort of the high level substance use stuff. Before I keep going, we'll have questions about that. Yeah.
Yes, I'm particularly concerned about the kids not feeling safe in school. I was wondering,
Yeah.
what do we do? What's the follow-up for that so every child can feel safe? We can bring up that percentage.
Yeah, yep. So it's interesting. So we've been having conversations about the safety question. And there are lots of reasons why kids might report that they don't feel safe. And some of them might be that they're seeing things in the building that feel concerning to them. Some of them could be, we were having a conversation about like some of the things that are happening in our environment in our country. So there are kids who wake up and they're fearful about school shootings, right? Even though that's something that hasn't happened here, knock on wood, like in our locally, these are fears that kids carry with them because unfortunately they see these things on the news or they hear about them through social media. And so, yeah, I think we do need to have some conversations and continue to work on those issues. I mean, there's certainly a lot of things that are happening in the district around school safety. But yeah, that feeling that some of those kids have and how that impacts school anxiety and some of those other things.
Absenteeism.
Yes.
I would really be interested in seeing some follow-up on this and figure out why they don't feel safe.
So in response also, if you recall, we have a Labor Management Committee agreement for an O'Donnell Middle School advisory going forward. So you'll be getting a draft of that. We think that's going to have some positive impact on not only school safety, but decision-making, really talking to the students about managing their time, all of that stuff. So you'll be seeing that shortly, and implementation for September is our goal. So that's a agreement that requires your vote and then the STA as well, but that'll be coming.
I would also be interested in find out more about alcohol use.
Yeah.
This is an in-school survey.
Correct.
I'd like to know if the alcohol use is in school or
Nope.
in the morning before school or at home with a that parents allowed half a
Yeah.
glass of wine or something with their dinner.
Yep. I would say, from what I understand, the alcohol use really is not happening in school, which is a good thing. So, because, so we do the survey in school because it's the best place to capture most students, right? But the behaviors, a lot of the behaviors that are captured on here are happening in the community. They might be happening in school. There are certainly the behaviors that happen in school are important to school personnel for sure. But being able to survey in school allows us to kind of capture this audience and then work collaboratively to think about how we address all these issues together, as both the town and the school department. But the alcohol behaviors, I think, are mostly happening outside of school. There are some other questions in the survey around where kids get alcohol, where they use, so like that's all information that I could share with you.
Please,
Yeah,
like-
I mean, there are millions of sort of constellations of the questions. So I could easily go down the garden path. I was trying to really keep myself up here so that I wasn't taking up your entire meeting. But that's definitely data that I can share with you and would be happy to sit and talk some more about. Yeah.
Is the raw data available?
So we have frequency tables. So the actual individual
surveys data themselves, like the Excel spreadsheets and stuff, is something that I would, we have that. But the sort of the easier way where students really are protected in terms of their confidentiality and anonymity.
But it doesn't identify any
It
students.
doesn't identify them. No.
So that's not a worry.
Yeah. Right.
So is the raw data
I
available?
mean, I guess the
I
answer
have
is
an
yes.
engineering
Yeah.
background, so I
Yeah,
love
yeah.
raw data.
I mean, I wouldn't withhold that from you. Yes, if you are interested in that.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. I would just want to make sure we were taking care to make sure everybody's anonymity is protected. So yeah, that would be something I would ask our evaluator. But yeah,
Okay.
yep, yeah, absolutely, yeah. All right. Other questions about that piece? Yeah. All right. So there's some information. So the survey really does try to kind of collect pieces about various different behaviors. We ask students about bullying and fighting behaviors, and those are your next two slides. The bullying questions, I think, are a little complicated by the fact that the legal definition of bullying is not something I think that students keep in their heads all the time. So I think that's really important context, even though it actually spells that out in the survey. I don't know how many students read the little descriptions that happen above the questions that say, when you think about bullying, bullying is defined as blah, blah, blah. However, whatever bias kids are carrying into that question are probably the same biases they had in 2019 and in 2017 and all the years that we've taken this survey. So when we look at bullying behaviors, in my head, I sort of think some of that's bullying and some of that is kids are being mean to each other, which is not great either, but probably doesn't. I would say that the numbers you're seeing in front of you are not all, they do not all fit the legal definition of bullying, just to sort of be clear. And so, you can see what that at the middle school, there are, 34% of kids are reporting that they have experienced bullying. About 26% have experienced electronic bullying. Those numbers go down in high school. That's a trend we always see. I think some of these behaviors developmentally, kids grow out of them. And so that's sort of what we picked up there. There's also information in here around fighting, about whether kids were in a physical fight, whether that happened on school property, and then whether they believed they had been threatened or actually injured with a weapon. And so I think the threatened question we've also had a lot of conversation around about, what does that mean to be threatened? It doesn't mean lots of kids are carrying weapons. It just means that, kids might be, there's a lot of language sometimes that kids use with each other that can feel threatening and might lead other kids to believe that things are going on. And so all of these things that you see here, I can tell you, I know that our administrators have been actively, if they weren't already actively working on some of these issues, are already actively having conversations about some of these kinds of things. And so, I can share with you some of the stuff that the coalition is doing. I wouldn't want to, and a lot of which is in collaboration with the school department, but I wouldn't want to speak on their behalf. Yeah.
I was curious, does this survey, does it point to a particular group of bullies? I'm wondering, is the bullying broad, everyone's bullying each other, or is there a group of people bullying the entire school?
That I don't know that I could tell you that from the data. I mean, we can look at some demographic stuff and pull some things apart, but I don't know that it would get you that kind of an answer. I think that I think in situations where the behavior is really challenging, the administrators are probably already working with those students and are aware of who they are. So, I mean, in this case, the surveys, it's kind of like it gives us a sense and baseline for like things that are happening so that as we address them, we can say like, oh, look, we did this intervention. It seems to be having an impact. When we surveyed again, those rates seem to be going down. I think the other thing when we look at this data is to remember that these are totally different kids than we surveyed in 2019, right? So most of those kids are graduated and out of our system too. And so even though we're comparing our data to what it looked like, because it gives us a sense for some trends, we're not talking about the same set of students, and certainly students who had a very different experience, right? Like a lot of our kids now have been through COVID, and in 2019, none of us could have predicted that was going to be the situation. So, I think that's the other caveat when we sort of look at ourselves compared to 2019 is like, these are different kiddos.
One of the things that
Yeah.
wasn't clear to me.
Yes.
Of these survey questions, I'd like some, if possible, to actually, in the future surveys, to actually ask the question, is this in school or is this outside of school in the community? Because we can't make that distinction from what I'm seeing from this survey. And I
Some
think it's-
questions we do ask, but not every question, correct? Yeah. Yep. Yeah. So the bullying behavior, you're asking about that specifically. Yeah.
Right,
Yep.
it's school property, or they just feel that way in their neighborhood, or whichever.
You know what? I don't know. I could go back and check. Actually, the bullying is on school property, the first question. Electronic bullying is online, so that could be anywhere, right, out in the universe. It's probably, in fact, not happening during the school day, the electronic piece, in theory, right, because they're not supposed to have their devices. Yeah, yep. We looked at mental health. We had a couple of different kinds of questions this year. I think that one of the reasons we look at some of this data is because we can sort of look and see how it relates to other things that are going on. So we know that students in the survey who are struggling with anxiety, in this case, like at the high school, they're more likely to be our kids who are drinking alcohol. If they're struggling with anxiety, they're more likely to be the kids who are using marijuana. Some of these are associations that we sort of knew anecdotally anyway. There are some differences around students who identify as female and students who identify as male with a lot of the mental health issues. I don't think any of you would be surprised to hear that. That shows up in our data as well, that more students of our female students are reporting some of the feeling anxious, feeling depressed. And so I think these are really important things for us to just be paying attention to. And again, like with any of these, it's like it creates a lot of other questions, right, that we would want to know and to ask that would be deeper than a survey like this could provide. But there are opportunities to sort of, talk to students about this data and say, hey, this is what we picked up on the survey. What do you think? Like, what's your experience with this? Does this feel reflective, right? How do you think students interpreted some of these questions? Because sometimes I wonder that too. We don't write the questions; they come to us from national surveys. Yeah,
It's, I'm sorry, I asked
it's
a lot of
okay. It's all right. You
questions.
can ask.
One of the things, one of the problems I have since I'm new on the school committee, I don't have a baseline.
Mm-hmm.
So I was wondering what the baseline compares to previous years and also with other similar schools.
Yeah. Yep. So some of these questions we haven't asked before. So the depression question we have asked in the past, and the data this year it's not so different from 2019. I don't know statistically if there is actually a really big difference. We didn't ask about the anxiety or the worrying question in the past, so I don't have comparison data for that. The other challenge with comparing data is that our biggest comparison data set is the state. Their most recent data set that is public is 2021, which is a challenging data set for us to compare ourselves to in 2024. So
To me, the depression, anxiety, it seems like these numbers are very high, but It has no meaning for me unless.
Right, I
have
know,
it.
without the context, yeah. I would say, from what I have seen from other state data and from what we've seen in the past, this seems to be about where we've been sitting. And so, and some of this is, again, are some of those numbers inflated because students, the way they read the question, this isn't a clinical diagnosis, it's one question that asks kids to kind of self-report. And it's and actually the depression question is a very long question. It's like, during the past 12 months, have you ever felt so sad or hopeless that in a 2-week period you stopped doing your usual activities? It's like a mouthful. And so it's hard to interpret, but that's the question that we have. Like, that's the valid question that the CDC uses. So, but these are all really good questions. And these are the kinds of things we should be asking and wondering about the data, right? The last piece with the mental health data is, for the first time, we asked some questions around thoughts about suicide. And so I don't have comparison data for that for the district because this is new. But I think it's really important baseline data for us to have so that, as we think about some of the things that we're putting in place around students' mental health, we can hopefully watch those numbers go down. But I don't, from what I've seen of other state data, I think the numbers feel alarming because suicide is scary to think about and to talk about. But fortunately or unfortunately, these don't feel out of line with the kinds of things that we see. I don't think any of our numbers are out of line with, what is happening. Yeah.
So do you feel that when we finally have a complete part of our curriculum with SEL, you'll see some of these numbers drop off?
I think all of these things are connected. Yeah, I think that, we know the research says that kids feeling connected to their schools, to other caring adults outside of the home are really protective and for all of these behaviors. So I do think that all of that work is going to have an impact on some of these behaviors as well. It's like putting all of these pieces together and coming at the issues in different ways. So yeah, I do. And I think it's exciting that we can measure it, right? Like that we have these numbers in place. The last couple things so there are other things in the survey, but just sort of, we looked at screen time. Those numbers haven't changed much since 2019. Kids are on screens. I was surprised. I actually thought those numbers would have gone up, especially after COVID. They look like they're kind of holding. They look similar from the high school to the middle school. So, our kids are on screens, not for schoolwork, a fair amount of hours, but that's the landscape. We asked about physical activity this year. We didn't ask it in 2019. About 60% of our kids report being physically active a couple days a week. More often when they're involved in extracurriculars, like that subset of kids is more physically active, kind of makes sense. But again, most kids are reporting that. We looked at sleep. It seems like our kids are getting slightly less sleep than in 2019. I think that might also be a vestige from COVID. Even though screen time hasn't changed that much, the sleep numbers seem to have not improved. And so, we still have a lot of kids who are not getting enough sleep, but that's also, kind of teenage life in some ways. So something else we can think about. So I'm going to ask if you have any questions about the data, and I want to just really quickly share a couple things we have that are coming up that are going to touch on some of these things that I think are important that I would love to just publicly announce. But any other data-related things?
Yeah. Not actually a question about the data. Just wanted to say thank you for putting this together. It was really accessible and digestible.
Oh, good.
It's easy to read. And my question is actually about what do we do with it now? What are sort of the processes? But
Yes.
I imagine you're going to speak to that next.
Yeah. So I think there are a lot of things that we can do with it and that we should do with it. And it's really important. It's important to me that this doesn't sit on a shelf anywhere because this is really important data that we should be trying to find lots of ways to use. And I know that the district has used this data in lots of ways historically and is already continuing to do that. And so I think in places like the SEL work, the PBIS at the high school and the middle school, these are conversations that are starting. The administrators look at it. It is used in school improvement plans. So I am going to be presenting to the school councils in the future. So now, after being able to talk to all of you folks, those meetings are scheduled. I am going to speak to the faculty at both the middle and the high school. It's a good way for us to learn and glean from their experiences as well. And, and then I, have had conversations with folks around health education. We're working with the nursing staff, really trying to think about like, how do we put this to work? And not just as baseline data, but like, where can we start infusing it into places that exist? I am always happy. I love talking about the data, and I'm happy to go and do it in lots and lots of detail, probably more than anybody wants to know. So another thing that I have planned in the future is I do have a cable show, and so I know the technology will talk to me. And so, coming very soon, I will be able to do something with the slide deck, and that will be something that's available for families and parents to be able to access as well. And, just anywhere where we can start putting this stuff out for students and for families. I think sort of outside of the school, a lot of these data points make really good conversation starters for families as well. And I think that's also really important on all of these topics. And sometimes these can be things that are hard to talk about with kids. So, to be able to say to your kid, hey, this is what we learned from the school health survey. What's your experience? Is, I think, really, really valuable.
Health class.
Health classes. Yep. Yeah. Yeah. So I have had some conversations with Chad about the health classes. And yeah. So I think there's lots coming that's connected to this. So a couple things that we have that are really exciting that are coming up is the Health and Wellness Fair. This is our second year we're doing this in collaboration. So Oasis and Stoughton Public Schools. It's on Wednesday, April 24th. It's at Stoughton High School. It's from 3 to 7. We are doing a very interactive health fair. We have a ton of community partners. Danielle Gallen and I have been working really closely on pulling lots of new folks in from some partnerships that we have at Mass General and then Department of Public Health. Yep. So some bigger partners and also some of our local community partners, Stoughton Youth Commission, Be Inspired Counseling. So to be able to share lots of different health things with kids in ways that are really interactive, and so and to have it be fun. So we're going to kick off the day with some work from Dr. Randy Schuster, who we partner with around some of our prevention work, the I Decide diversion program, and some research work that's happening with our expert work at the high school and the middle school. So she's going to bring her grad students and do something really interactive for our students to start out the health fair. And then we're going to have all of these very interactive tables, exhibits, fun things for kids to do. My intention is to give the data to all of those folks. So we have somebody from the Boston Children's Hospital who's going to do some stuff around sleep hygiene, right? We want to make sure he knows what our local data looks like so he can incorporate that in his conversations with kids. We're going to, we have a lot of substance abuse prevention stuff. We've got mental health stuff. All of these pieces can be utilized there. And then Dr. Schuster is going to sort of capstone the night at 7:00 for parents of all parents in the district are invited to that. They're invited to come in earlier if they want to come and interact with all of the fun stuff we have going on. And she's going to talk to parents about substance abuse prevention and why all of this stuff is really important. So that's going to be a really great day. April 24th, it's a Wednesday. We at the Coalition just launched a podcast for parents, which I'm super excited about. And that's been really fun. It's called Where's My Handbook? It's for parents of middle and high school kids. This season, I guess I'm supposed to call it a season, is really supposed to be about underage drinking. And so we have interviewed a lot of community folks. I had the privilege of having an interview. I'm going to have an interview with Dr. Schuster. I have a colleague out at Washington State who's a research scientist around adolescent health. He was our first interview. So those just started rolling out. That launched 2 weeks ago. Tomorrow, our third episode drops. It's actually the Katrina at Crowley at the middle school. She's going to talk about middle school kids. So that's exciting. And then we are also starting a Grandparents Raising Grandchildren support group. That launches at the end of this month. So I know we have a lot of families in the district who are raising kids that are, in their family, but maybe were not their own children by birth. And so that support group starts. A lot of that, unfortunately, is connected to substance misuse. And so that's going to be at the Y on Tuesday mornings, and all of this information will be stuff that will be shared publicly. And then there's like a ton of other stuff going on, but I feel like I have taken up a ton of your time. So,
Fabian, any questions or comments? Hi.
Hi.
Thanks for the presentation.
Yeah.
I think all the data is extremely helpful, and I like the fact that, you're incorporating so many things, facets to it. And so I'm in light of the languages and stuff. I'm just wondering whether it was included or considered like a space for like free-form comments from the students. That way you can consider if there was an ongoing theme going on pertaining to culture or even different grades, because they're at a different mental and physical space when
Yep.
they're answering the questions.
That's a great question. There are some questions where there's sort of an other box where kids can write stuff in. And, I haven't even had a chance to go through and try to sort any of that. Sometimes when it's obvious, Kendall can group things into the categories where they belong. But we didn't do any big open-ended questions. I think those are super valuable and they're a bear to analyze. So there are other ways for us to get that kind of a data, like thinking about focus groups and other ways to interact with kids, which is absolutely something that I would love to
that's a
do
great
in
idea.
partnership. Yeah, yeah.
For sure.
Because you're right. Because the data is amazing and it's sort of
Correct.
two-dimensional. It's kind of like it's this one point in time and it tells us something and then it sort of makes us go,
It has to get deeper and
Yeah.
stuff, and then find out, like I said, themes, root causes, things of that nature.
yeah, sort of all of those whys behind the answer.
Correct.
Yeah, yep.
And that'll help you focus in terms of like the things that you're doing to try to like resolve some of the issues that are taking place.
Absolutely, yeah, yep. What else can I answer?
Any other questions, comments? No. I really appreciate being able to see all the data and the.
Yeah, I'm sorry I couldn't make the tech work.
That's fine, yeah.
Your screens do not like
People can catch
me.
it at other points, so
Yes.
this is not the only chance, but really appreciate you coming in and explaining that again. So it was very hard to read, but looking forward to seeing the change, hopefully improvement over the years as we put in the SEL programming
Yeah.
and think about other ways to do that. So this is very helpful.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of opportunity, and I'm happy to, in the future, come back and talk more about some of the collaborations and other things that we are doing, so.
I do have one more comment. You know what I'd really be interested in if I was a teacher?
Yeah,
Just give the teacher the same survey, but let them think, what are the students like? And see how well the teachers match the students and get an idea of their awareness of,
we ask parents sometimes some of those same questions, so I do have some parent survey data that aligns somewhat with this, and the misperceptions in particular are often held by adults as well. So when kids say to us, like, everybody at the high school drinks, but I don't drink, a lot of times parents they misperceive it. My kid doesn't do that behavior, but every other kid is doing that behavior, and teachers, the same thing. We all do it. It's kind of innate, and the research bears that out over and over again, but yeah, it is really interesting. There are some complementary surveys, some of the PBIS stuff that the school is doing mimics the questions that you see in here about connection and bonding, sort of from the teacher perspective, and so that's all data that we can all collaboratively look at together, and it's all part of the big picture, right? Yeah,
thank you.
yeah.
Thank you very much.
All right,
I
thank you.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, the next item on our agenda is the Pilgrim Area Collaborative's Collaborative Agreement Revision, and I'm going to give the floor to our representative on the Pilgrim Area Collaborative, Lindsay Kreckler, and our guest from the collaborative, Dr. Dipna Thomas. Thank you very much for your patience to present this revised collaborative agreement.
Yeah. Dr. Thomas, thank you so much for being here. I hope you can you hear me okay? I'm like sort of the furthest away from the camera. Okay. Cool. So, as I think most folks in the room know, Stoughton Public Schools is a member district of the Pilgrim Area Collaborative, and the administrative team and the board of directors at the Pilgrim Area Collaborative is currently in the process of updating the collaborative agreement, which is an agreement between all of the member towns. It was first established in 1975 and was last modified in 2013. So the goal is really of the document is to establish procedures for the collaborative in accordance with Mass General laws. And the new draft, which is in everybody's packet, was initially approved by DESE at the beginning of February. So the next step, now that it's been approved by DESE, is that it goes to each member district school committee to accept the new agreement. And then once all 10 member town school committees accept the agreement, it goes back to DESE for final approval. So we are just part of that process tonight. I asked Dr. Thomas to be here too to offer a little bit more context. I think I have really enjoyed working with the PAC over the last 2 years, but that said, it has only been 2 years. So I think Dr. Thomas can offer a little bit more context and a little bit more expertise. So Dr. Thomas, I'd kick it to you to just share anything that feels important to share and any additional context that might be helpful.
Sure, thank you, Lindsay. And Lindsay, I just want to thank you and Stoughton for all the support. Before Lindsay, we had Anita Hill on our board of directors for a long time. And so Stoughton's always been such a real nice support to have through the Pilgrim Area Collaborative Board of Directors. Mainly, basically, is what Lindsay just talked about, is this really governs what goes on in a collaborative. And the Stoughton Public Schools has been a part of the collaborative for a very long time. We really try to focus on our board of directors in those sending districts, which are Duxbury and Marshfield and Plymouth, as well as Stoughton, Whitman-Hanson, Middleborough, Kingston, Halifax, Plimpton, and Silver Lake, that they get preferential treatment, especially with the referral process. We don't have a lot of Stoughton students that always come our way, because a lot of it, when parents are going to visit different kinds of collaboratives and programs, they're looking at locations always. But we have had over the years many, and just even recently we've had some graduates who have graduated from Pilgrim Area Collaborative from Stoughton, and so it's just been really nice to continue that partnership. We also have an operating committee that has a voice that talks to us regarding, what are the needs of the district? What's the programming that they may need? What are the complexities with the students that they're seeing and servicing? What professional development might be something that we could basically work with our staff, whether it's in the district, outside of the district. We also do a lot of home services. So there's a lot of benefits to that. And then always giving back to the districts as much as possible, especially towards the end of the year when you look at tuition, and then any cost savings percentages always go back to the district. So in short, Lindsay basically provided everything in terms of where we're at. Is there isn't in the law anything stating the time frame of when the agreement is done, but I am going to be putting into place, we should do it every 6 years, because we have our audit that comes every 6 years from DESE. And so it's a nice way to update the agreement. There's, sometimes we have changeover through the board on school committee. So it's also nice to provide the board members with the information regarding collaboratives. So I want to thank you for having us tonight. If you have any questions, I'm here, to answer anything. I was 28 years in typical public schools and 5 years now in collaboratives, which is just an extension of public schools. So I've been doing this a really long time. And so I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Thank you very much, Dr. Thomas. Any questions for?
Actually, I have a bunch of questions, but perhaps I could just ask, if it's permitted, I can ask Lindsay and she can answer them for me.
Okay, sure.
It's permitted? Yeah,
Okay.
do it that way then.
Okay.
Otherwise, we'll be here all night.
Fabian,
Okay.
any questions or comments?
Not right now.
All right, okay.
I was just going to make a quick statement to my dear friend, Debra Thomas, who we've known for a long time as colleagues, and she runs a great program. One of the gurus in special education, not only in the traditional public school system, but now as a collaborative leader. So it's great to see you, Deb.
Thank you so much, Joe. And great to work with all of you. Thank you. Hi, Jonathan.
She knows everyone. All right, so we need
Thank you.
a motion to approve the Pilgrim Area Collaboratives Collaborative Agreement Revision. Is that what we need, Lindsay?
I make a motion to continue membership and approve the 2024 Pilgrim Area Collaborative Agreement as presented.
All right.
That,
Yes.
okay,
Yes.
Does that make sense, Dr. Thomas?
okay.
Yes,
Okay.
thumbs
Okay.
up. Thanks, everybody.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Dimna, for coming.
you.
So grateful that you were able to make the time and share that, so thank you.
Really appreciate
All
that.
right, you're welcome. Thanks.
All
Bye-bye.
right, so the motion was made by Lindsay. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Fabian. It's been moved and seconded. Vote, all in favor?
Aye.
I'm going to abstain.
Okay, aye.
Aye.
All right, so the motion is carried 3-0 with 1 abstention. And thank you very much. Oh, Dr. Thomas has already left. All right, I probably close the computer at some point. The next item on the agenda is the SCPC logo design scholarship acceptance. The Stoughton Community Preservation Committee asked the Stoughton High School Fine Arts students to propose logo designs for the SCPC and would like to award a $500 scholarship to the winner and a $250 scholarship to the finalist. And we have Mr. Barry Klassler here from the CPC to present.
Actually, for the record, I am Mark Zamanian.
Oh, sorry, Mark Zamanian.
That's okay. Barry is the program administrator and has done a lot of the work. I want to thank you all for having me tonight, Madam Chair and members. Just to give you a brief history, the Community Preservation Committee, through state law, provides community benefit to our town in recreation, open space, historic preservation, and community housing. For many years, we have gone without a logo, and we got to talking about this. Long story short, a number of us says, why don't we reach out to the schools? I mean, we have some great talent here in Stoughton, in our children. So Barry Kassler reached out to Joe Baeta, who in turn got us in contact with Mr. Mange, who handles your fine arts department. This was presented to the students. The students had no awareness that there'd be any scholarship. We simply asked them to do some designs. We got some great work back from the students. It was really a lot of fun. We're offering now 2 scholarships, so we did pick one particular design that we most liked, but the members talked about working with the students through Barry and Mr. Mange to sort of integrate some of the different ideas from both designs. So we sort of had a clear vision, but we're now in the process of working with Mr. Mange to fine-tune that. So I'm here before you tonight to ask if you would accept the scholarships, one for the $500 and one for $250, because there were 2 students that participated in this. And further, we would ask that you allow us to present those to these young students. We just think this was a great process. Some of the creative ideas we got from the kids were so fantastic, stuff I wouldn't have thought of. So it was really neat, but this scholarship, if you will, is going to be presented to the children for use, hopefully to further their education in some small way. We know it's not a lot, but we wanted to show our appreciation for it. So with that said, I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Any questions or comments for Mr. Zamanian?
I just wanted to add, Madam Chair, if I may, Barry's just been great. I've known Mark, of course, representing the organization, but Barry's been great with just communicating, making sure that this was happening. And then I think really taking the route of the scholarship just really establishes the organization's wanting to work with the kids in Stoughton. So thank you to you folks for doing this.
Thank you. We've partnered now with the school system on a couple of occasions. We have a playground coming at the Hanson School that we're very excited to see go in. So it's really an opportunity. We are one town, and it's a wonderful opportunity to include all of us in this process.
Yeah, no questions. I just wanted to say thank you for extending the opportunity to our students. I think it's really exciting to be able to see an impact in the community for them and be able to see their design, and just it's awesome. And scholarship
when
really is
we
even better.
present the scholarships, we'll have the actual finished design. This, just so everybody knows, this is going to go on our letterhead, but it's also going to go on the signs that we post in town on the different projects that we complete and fund. So these students will have to obviously give us permission to use their artwork. But this is a good opportunity for these kids to sort of, hopefully, a little bit of confidence building, which never helps at that age, or never hurts at that age,
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a fantastic company. I love the designs. The winning ones especially are just, they're perfect. I mean, how can you
they're really, you can see these kids put some time into
right.
it.
And I was going to say, I realized that the OMS theater program this week, their flyer is entirely done by a student. I thought it was professional. I really did. They're just astounding work that they do. We really appreciate the CPC support. So could we have a motion to approve the SCPC logo design scholarships and allow them to present the scholarships to the students.
So moved.
All right, I'll give that to Fabian, a second to Armando. It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, the motion is carried 4-0.
I thank you all for that.
Yeah.
And I just want to make mention, this program, I believe, is run primarily by Mr. Mange. You guys are doing a fantastic job with the curriculum. These kids are very involved. They're very knowledgeable. Our suggestions were taken right up without any question. So it's a credit to the good work that our school system is doing, and I thank you for that. You have a good evening.
Thank you very much. We appreciate that. All right, the next item on the agenda is an out-of-state field trip request to Kenobi Lake Park. I know we've had debates about out-of-state field trips, but for the time being, we're going to continue with our practice of approving this. This is a request from the grade 8 band and chorus at OMS to visit the Kenobi Lake Park following their year-end music festival. Any questions or comments about this? No? All right, can I have a motion to approve the out-of-state field trip request to Kenobi Lake Park by the OMS 8th grade band and chorus? All right, made by Fabian, a second.
Second.
A seconded by Lindsay. It's been moved and seconded. Vote?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Fabian? Aye. All right, motion is carried 4-0. So wishing the participants a successful festival and a safe trip to Kenobi Lake Park. So if we could have a brief pause in the meeting, I would like to present Senator Timilty. Yes. Actually, let's knock off the next item on the agenda. I would like to table the appointment for the Stoughton Schools Administrative Assistants Association. We have not yet received a letter from them, and I think we need to have some discussion about who our school committee members are going to be at all three negotiations that we will be having next year. So I'd like to table that one for the next meeting, if there are no objections. Okay. All right, financial warrants. I just want to note that we have reviewed the financial warrants. We will enter them at a later time. And at this point, I would like to turn it over to Senator Timilty for a secret presentation. So, Senator.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Could you turn the microphone on? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. It's my privilege to be here tonight. Thank you very much to each and every member of the school committee for allowing me to be here to honor you, Fabian. Yes. Yes, 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 yes. Yes. Representative Bill Galvin, Representative Ted Phillips, and myself, Walter Timilty, I want to thank you for your service. You have given of yourself immensely and served with distinction, and we are very grateful. Both Representative Phillips and Representative Galvin in the House of Reps offered recognition, a House of Representatives citation, and I, myself, in the State Senate have offered a citation as well, honoring you. It is recorded in the records of the State Senate in perpetuity, and both are official documents. So we are very appreciative of your service, and Dr. Baeta, thank you for the invitation to be here tonight to honor you for your service, and thank you very much. We know that you are not the retiring type, so we know you will be serving in a different capacity. Yes, you will be back, and in between you will be serving, I'm sure, in other capacities for the wellness of a town, Stoughton, that deserves the very best, and we thank you. Now, if I may, Madam Chair, thank you very much. First citation is from the State Senate, Fabian, and it reads as follows. Commonwealth of Massachusetts State Senate, official citation. Be it known that the Massachusetts State Senate hereby extends its congratulations to Fabienne Francois Morissette in recognition of your 3 years of service to the Stoughton Public Schools as a member of the school committee, and thank you. And be it further known that the Massachusetts State Senate extends its best wishes for continued success, that the citation be duly signed by the President of the State Senate and attested to, and a copy thereof transmitted by the Clerk of the Senate. Fabienne, it has been signed by our Senate President, Senator Karen E. Spilka, attested to by our Senate Clerk, Michael Hurley, and attested by myself, one very proud State Senator, Walter F. Timilty. So thank you very much and congratulations. And now with the Chair's permission, I'll read off the citation from Rep. Galvin and Rep. Phillips. And it reads as follows, Fabienne. The Commonwealth of Massachusetts, the House of Representatives, be it hereby known to all that the Massachusetts House of Representatives offers its sincerest congratulations to Fabienne Francois Morissette in recognition of your leadership, professionalism, and dedication to the students, teachers, and families of Stoughton Public Schools throughout your 3 years as a member of the Stoughton School Committee. The entire membership, Fabienne, extends its very best wishes and expresses the hope for future good fortune and continued success in all your endeavors. Given this 12th day of March, 2024, signed by our Speaker of the House, Ronald Mariano, and offered by Representatives Ted Phillips and Representative Bill Galvin. Fabienne, on behalf of Bill Galvin, Ted Phillips, and myself, Walter Timothy, we thank you for your service. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. If you look right over there.
Thank you so much.
Madam Chair.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Appreciate
Thank you for coming.
Oh, it's an honor to be here. Nice to see you. Thank you very much.
it.
Coming.
Stoughton, thank you. Appreciate it.
Kind of surprised me.
Thank you very much for allowing me to address you on the back end of your agenda.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. I wanted to be here. I wanted to be here, and Ted and Bill did as well. They had conflicts. But we're a team, and we're very proud of you. So thank you.
Thank you so
And all
much.
your service. Thank you. Have a good night, okay?
Thank you.
Thank you. Good night. Bye-bye. Thank you.
All right, moving back to the meeting. Moving on to the acceptance of minutes from February 14th, 2024. If you remember, we tabled these minutes last time so that we could double-check the cost estimates for the new school. I have inserted the correct numbers into the amended minutes. I would like to ask at this time if there are any other amendments or corrections to these minutes. Yes, Armando?
I thought the Massachusetts Association of School Committee, MSC,
MASC, yes.
yeah, it was wrong somewhere.
That would be under,
Can't find it now.
okay,
Right here, page 2.
page 2, okay.
Oh, I'm sorry, that's not it.
Oh.
Can't find it now.
We discussed.
Right here,
Oh,
page 4.
page 4, okay.
Should that be MASC?
Oops. Oh, this is,
This 27?
oh, this is the 27th. Sorry, looking at the 14th right now.
Oh.
I'm looking at the 27th, so hold that thought. But aiming for the 14th. Right, no. Can I have a motion to approve the corrected February 14th, 2024 minutes?
So moved.
All right, that was done by Lindsay. A second? Second by Fabian. It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, that motion is carried 4-0. Now we're on to the 27th. And that was on page 4, the 26th. All right, yes, there's a typo on page 4, under number 6, under ACR. There are 2 of them. It should be MASC rather than MSAC. I have another correction on that same page. Further down, BDFA and BDFE were the result of consolidating 4 policies down to 2. It was BEDH that was revised due to a recent court case, but no substantive changes were being made to this policy. So, correction on that. And then I had another correction on page 5, under policy CBD. Strike the sentence, questions were raised and this policy will be discussed further. That policy was resolved at that meeting. Any other corrections? Oh, I had a couple other ones on page 3. The gift on B, the gift from the Barbosa family was for American and Massachusetts state flags. And then the unpaid bills on C for FY23 unpaid bills, the 2022 unpaid bill was for special education supplies, not translation services. So that's in the first paragraph there. And then the second motion made by Lindsay Kreckler, was for special education supplies, not interpretive services. Any other corrections or amendments to that? All right, if I could have a motion to approve the February 27th, 2024 minutes as amended.
So,
All right, that's made by Fabian. A second?
second.
Seconded by Lindsay. Moved and seconded, roll call vote.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, that motion is carried 4-0. The next item on the agenda is school committee policy. We have a new batch of informational, so this is, the working group is recommending the following policies for review. This is the first reading for the committee and the public. We will take these policies up for discussion at a later meeting. DGA, DGE, ECA, EFE, EHAA, and EHB are all new policies that the Stoughton Public Schools do not yet have. That's why they're not marked up. Don't have the red and strike-throughs and all of that. EB, EBB, and EBC are revisions to existing policies. So again, we'll take those up at a later time unless anyone has any questions on those right now. I'd like to get back to the discussion. These were 4 policies that we looked at last time for discussion, and then the committee sent them back to the working committee. So this is our third reading of these. After our discussion tonight, the committee may choose to vote on them or postpone them for a following meeting. The first was ACAB. The committee sent this policy back to the working group for grammatical issues. There were some grammatical issues, misplaced commas and things in the first 2 paragraphs, which have been fixed. Our main issue was on the last page, trying to figure out, make sense of the one sentence about the previous, the entities that have specified time limits. So our proposal was to move that to the end afterwards. Does that make sense, Fabian? Lindsay, does that make sense, the change there?
Yeah, that makes sense. to me.
Okay. Were there any other comments or questions about this policy?
No.
All right. The next one was BGC, Policy Revision and Review. The committee sent this policy back to the working group to examine whether we wanted to specify a period of time. It notes that the committee will review its policies on a regular basis. There was a proposal of annually, but after some discussion, the working group is recommending to leave this as is to allow for flexibility. Mr. Ford noted that the last time we reviewed all of the policies, it was a 2-year process. So an annual revision would be wonderful, but it's very optimistic, perhaps a little ambitious. So we've opted to leave it as is. If anybody has any issues, we can certainly revisit it. Does that make sense, Lindsay?
It does. I'm wondering, so we do this on an ongoing basis, right? It's sort of just like we start at the
Right.
top and review, and then once we get to the bottom, we start back up at the top again. I'm wondering if the word ongoing might do some work in here to reflect that, but A, correct that assumption if it's wrong, and B, let me know if that makes sense in terms of adding the word ongoing.
So we do it a number of different ways. We generally follow the review process that MASC utilizes.
Yeah.
Where they do an ongoing review process, systematically working through the policy manual. But that's not the only way they do it. They'll actually target specific things with changes in legislation. So we follow their process of ongoing review and targeted review based on specific things which happen with the legislature, court cases, or whatever, a policy change, regulation change, law change. We also review it based on our specific needs as a school district. So if we find that we want to make an adjustment to a policy based on a change in practice or change in expectation by the committee, or, a reflection of what the administrative team is doing, we do that as well. So while we have a cyclic piece, we also have a targeted piece, and we have a district-specific piece all running at the same time within this review process.
Okay. So ongoing wouldn't make as much sense to describe the way we do it versus the way MASC does it.
Yeah, this language seems to make sense for us.
Okay. Okay. Then I'm happy with it.
Right.
Thank you.
That was
Just-
our argument.
Yeah.
This allows us some flexibility to, heaven forbid somebody take an annual review as meaning we can't change it except
Yeah.
once a year.
Okay.
Which is not the intention, but somebody could always misinterpret it. So that was our suggestion, to leave it as is.
Okay.
Policy CB for the school superintendent. The committee sent this policy back to the working group to examine this word fix in the first sentence to determine if that's the most appropriate. We looked up the Mass General Law, which is cited underneath, and found that the fix, his compensation, was the language of the law. And so we opted to keep it as is, considering it cites the law. I know. It seems an awkward one, but it does seem like it has some legal definition.
I think I did the same thing as you did in looking at like why the law reads this way. It's because the committee as a whole decides on your range. So like you've done with your other contracts, you say, we're going to pay no less but no more. And if it needs to be changed, then the chair would have to come back during negotiations to the full committee to get that approved. So it keeps the majority of the committee in charge of what the final compensation is.
So we have opted to keep it the same. It was worth revisiting. It was worth to understanding why we did it that way. I'm sure there is too, but yes. Policy CBI, evaluation of the superintendent. The committee sent this policy back to the working group to add the cross-reference. We referenced CB, school and superintendent. That was to address this idea of accountability rather than rewriting a significant portion of the policy. So that has been added in here. So those were the changes we did or did not make to the 4 policies that were sent back. We have a chance. Can certainly vote on these tonight. If there are no objections and nothing to send back to the committee. If anybody would like to make a motion to approve ACAB, BGC, CB, and CBI, then as amended, or the new policies. All right. So that motion was made by Fabian. A second? Seconded by Armando. Been moved and seconded. Vote.
Aye.
Aye. All right, that motion is carried 4-0, and we are now done with the policies for tonight. The next item on the agenda is unfinished business, going to the FY24 budget and articles. A reminder that this is a standing agenda item that will remain on the agenda through town meeting in May. We had, for the budget hearing for education budgets joint meeting with Finance Committee report, we presented our budget and articles to the Committee for Finance and Taxation last Wednesday, March 6th. I want to thank the Finance Committee for allowing us time to present and answer questions, and thank all the students, families, and community members who came with questions and comments. I would like to ask I've gotten some comments back from committee members, and certainly would like to make sure that all of you have a chance to provide feedback to me on what we happened at FinCom. I know Chris is not here tonight, so I certainly want to give her a chance to weigh in on the priority list, on what you heard from the community, what our motion is forward, and share that with Dr. Baeta. I want to note that, we're not the only school committee in this situation. The ESSER funds were always intended to be temporary relief to get things back on track after COVID. And a number of other, pretty much any community across the nation is facing an issue with these ESSER funds going away. I know that Sharon, for example, cut administrators and is charging for kindergarten again. That's not on the table for Stoughton, but looking at Amherst had to cut sections of foreign language, again, not on the table for Stoughton, but certainly a lot of committees across the country having to make very hard choices with these ESSER funds. A lot of we have to focus on what we need and what we are able to afford going forward, certainly thinking about the elementary school building project going forward, and making sure that we are in great shape for that we have the support of the town as we move forward with that. Do we have any questions or comments about coming out of FinCom?
Can I just clarify the process? So we should send our feedback on the priorities in the budget as it is to you to consolidate?
Yes, I'd like a chance to to finish consolidating that and present that with Dr. Baeta. I think we need to meet again and make a motion and work through the budget before we go before FinCom. FinCom has a meeting, they vote on the budget articles at their March 27th meeting for that. Yes.
So, Madam Chair, I would probably suggest that we meet on the 19th, because I don't think it'd be fair to send anything up if there is whatever you decide to do. 2 pieces of information, if I may. The first one is that the remaining SOA money is still on the table from what I see. And I do need the support of the committee on those 1.6 EL positions, because if they don't come out of that money, then that means further cuts somewhere else. So that's just one part. And there'd still be money left over. And I gave you some thoughts that I've already changed again, as you know. So now you have another iteration of the on moving. And I'll tell you why. Thanks to the work of the gentleman to my left, Mr. Ford, and others, I'd like to announce tonight that both the Knights of Summer, grades 2 through 5, and the accelerated summer nights, grades 2 through 5, will be fully funded as recommended for a total of $120,000 for the nights of summer, and the nights accelerated for $61,000. Those are both coming out of Title I and Title IV. So what does that mean? That means, as you can see from the paper that I gave before you tonight, that I've been continuously working on, the improvement to that is that it takes that nights of program number 4 in your originally out of being considered. So it literally saves the 82,000 SOA and the 43,000 in consideration of free cash. So in the new memo, what I tried to do is provide you with a few other options. So this is the memo dated today that I've been working on. What that would do is that would take, if we take the 180 from the Chapter 70 SOA that is not fully expended, it would mean a request of $669,187 from free cash. Those positions would predominantly be the kindergarten paraprofessionals, the late bus, keeping bus 14, the nurse, the clinic aide, and if you indulge me for a second, the miscellaneous other, which is curriculum PD. My recommendation would be that the elementary enrichment program, which runs after school throughout the year, that would only be at $82,000, but that would be the remaining of the SOA. So in both the elementary number 6 and the number 1 EL, it's direct services that you're providing to students, in this case after school, and the other one is part of federal and state law. So that's what's before you. Now, added to that, we are working on a fee-based program for the remaining summer programs. Some of those programs are 20 days, $150. Some of those programs come down to being significantly more, over $700, because of the amount of work that's done by staff. Remember that we hire highly qualified educators and support staff to run these programs. You know, every once in a while we might have college students being paraprofessionals with us, but these are being run by highly qualified staff. So the STEM grade 6 transition to grade 5 to 6 STEM program, that would come in at about $400 for 20 days, 80 students. Same thing with a little less for the STEM video production program, because it'd be potentially more students. So anytime you do a summer program, you got to think of your cost. We're not looking to make money at all. It's cost divided by attendees. So we need a minimum number to keep it at that cost. And then we have to make the difficult decisions to say, well, 10 kids are coming, so therefore it's going to be $25 more or $50 more, whatever the case may be. So I will be presenting that, coming to you with that type of stuff, because if we want to do it, there's the potential that we have families and students that can. There's also the potential that we continue to go after funding. Mr. Ford today, today's Tuesday, right? So yesterday, he's got a pen that doesn't even have a cover on it, because all I do is sign off on grants all day. The guy is fantastic with that. And so we're applying for every grant that's connected to our migrant population. We're applying for any other grant that you can think of that's supporting our schools. So we will continue to do that. There are funds out there that are not necessarily connected to some of this, but maybe they are able to subsidize something else that alleviates some money. So that's one big picture for everybody to know. Recognizing that the committee is trying to work this through in a very delicate manner, there'll be things that you see on the list that we just won't be able to get to. It's just one of those things. Now, one of the things that I'm going to be doing, I've shared it with the chair, is we're going to be looking very hard to restructure administration for FY26. FY26, because I need to really restructure some of the things that we're doing at the central office and at the school level. And so, as I shared actually with Armando, Mr. Barboza earlier today, the fiscal cliff for 26 could actually be more severe than the current one that we're in. So, we don't have fee-based structures. If you don't cut back somewhere this year, you're cutting a lot next year, because it's the same idea. So if our transportation fees are not for consideration, if summer fees are not consideration, I know those are two different things, but just to use that, every year you're going to be looking at clipping something. So you can start with as many administrators as you want. You're going to eventually hit the classroom, which you already are, with the paras, but eventually then it's teachers, admin assistants, custodians, and it goes on and on and on. It's just not sustainable. So this, to your point, and I appreciate the chair, the Madam Chair, you collecting all this information, then we can have a sit down and really look at it and say, my concern that I have, and I'd like to enter it into the record, my concern that I have is this notion that we do have a school committee policy, a finance committee policy, let me rephrase that, a finance committee policy that establishes the utilization of free cash going away over time. Now we're talking about that just being a cliff itself. And I know members are not going to like that I'm saying this, but respectfully, just if you would just indulge me for a second. We actually said we're going to stop doing this by eliminating $300,000 every year until we get to no longer can use it, to just saying we're not using it. So are we saying that all town budgets all over the place, that if we don't raise the fees we're supposed to raise for the fees on one side of town government, that we're not going to use it? Because that's what happened. That's what happened last year. I just reread it. We took actual free cash to offset enterprise accounts. I know people don't like it when I say it, but it's a factual piece. I'm not making it up. It's a factual piece of information. So if we're going to do this, then that's fine. Let's do it. But let's also make sure that we're utilizing one of my major pet peeves right now, which is we do have a stabilization fund for special education. It's time to start putting money into that account from free cash. We're giving back $350,000, $400,000, and potentially, we believe, even more Medicaid reimbursement. It's time to fight to put some of that money into that account, so that when a student comes from the outside and costs $300,000, we are not taking from general education or somewhere else, especially because we have these crunches that are happening with us with enrollment. And then we have that other situation that is a difficult one, as we heard at FinCom the other night, and as we are dealing with every day. So thank you for creating that process, Madam Chair, because I think that's the right way to do it, so that everybody can get their piece. And then the committee's going to have to vote and make a decision. I'm sorry to say, but that's, as a person who's sat in your seat, those are sometimes the bad decisions, especially when you're trying to create this message that we're just trying to be responsible as well. We're trying to make sure we're part of the team. We're not asking for money to be taken from any other department. But if we don't go after certain amounts of funding, that's okay. But we have to then take the responsibility that certain things for students are not going to happen this year. And potentially, maybe we're actually helping ourselves for next year, because I'm able to do whatever we need to do to restructure the district. The areas of restructuring that are going to be, at the forefront will be administration, central office. We'll be taking a long look at transportation in terms of mileage from pickups and drop-offs and all of that stuff, because we currently have 13 budgets. We currently, in this fiscal year, have 14 buses. We are cutting back one, still trying to find a way to maintain that other one. But that's going to hurt another X number of students. And then the big one that's going to hurt right now is we did some computation of how many students take the late bus at the elementary level. We saw that's about 30. One of our schools, it's actually a big yellow bus for 2 kids. That's just not financially feasible. So what I did is, in this number that you see here, is I kept it just for the middle and high school, because that's where we predominantly have after-school activities. So you get 3 seasons of sports, 3 seasons of band, 3 seasons of arts, 3 seasons, so on and so forth. So that's the reason why that number was there, not the original 100 and whatever thousand it was. Because the numbers just don't show that we need 5 buses going to the elementary schools. And it's unfortunate, but there's no justification there, I'm sorry to say out loud, but that's what we're looking at right now. We're looking into getting deep into that data to say, where can we justify that 70 kids are going to take it on a regular basis where it's only 15 somewhere else? And those are going to be difficult decisions as well. And then lastly, I did provide you any program, anybody that sent me information, I have provided you those packets. So you do have a parent, child plus program of information, and actually a request to cut her budget to be able to run it to just under 70,000. But again, that's money that we have to find. But like we did with the music, like we did with the nurses, like we did with this program, I'm just giving you the information so you can make the decision that you need. So that's the big picture. The other thing that I just wanted to mention is we have eaten up all of our retirements with following up with replacements, and are going to have to hire at a lower number if we can. We don't know how many more retirements or resignations are going to come in the next few months, because this is the time of the year where it usually happens. You usually don't get, and Jonathan, you can correct me, but typically from March until June, we don't see a lot of announcements for retirement. By now, they're already taken place, or people have come out because of language in the contract or whatever the case may be. So as we see those, we're going to be asking ourselves the question, do we need to fill that position? Yes or no? And if it's a yes, then we'll try to do it at a savings. If it's a no, then that will be a savings that the committee, hopefully by June 30th, will have an opportunity to say, hey, Joe, this is our priority list with the money that you've saved. And we'll just do that. At some point, we don't meet during the summer, so I'll ask for your authority probably at the last meeting in June. What are your top 3 things? And as we hit that number, I'm able to say yes to that, no to that. None of them are going to be $300,000 or $400,000 items. These are going to be, and I'll give you an example, as I shared earlier, we potentially have, as we know, we don't know what the funding source is for our migrant students. But I can tell you as of today that we are going to have somewhere in the vicinity of 20 to 25 potential entering kindergarten students. That is a huge number, while I'm cutting paraprofessionals as well. So we're going to have to make some critical decisions around that. But then we have another problem, space. We just don't have buildings that have a lot of space to create a classroom without looking at libraries and all of that stuff. So that causes another situation. Mr. Ford and I were talking earlier today, we have to have a push from school committees and superintendents that this upcoming October 1st, that migrant students are part of the Chapter 70 formula. They are here, they are living here, they are eating here, they're now working here, they're going to school here, they're taking busing here, where we have to do all of this. We don't have to agree, but by law we have to do it as a school system. It should be under Chapter 70. And accounts for a lot of things. For Stoughton, huge accountability in terms of, or potential in terms of our high needs numbers. Literally breaking the next group, and again, once again, making sure that Stoughton gets its fair share of the SOA money in year 5. So I will continue to push my stuff to the chair as well, and then I don't think we can meet on the 26th to hand something to the Finance Committee, is the only recommendation I would make to the
I
committee.
think we need to make it sooner than that. We have the complication of the building committee is presenting to the select board on the 19th, but perhaps we can work out timing. Maybe we meet afterwards. I don't know when the select board is having us, so I don't know if the agenda is drawn up yet, but we can perhaps discuss that with the select board, so.
I was also, if you would indulge me for a second, also looking at potentially the Wednesday, the 20th.
Okay.
In that we can also do a Zoom call, just for your information. The select board just did it tonight. If it just makes it easier for members, that's the, anytime we have. So we just need to know by Friday, Monday, if we're going to do something on Wednesday, and Friday if it's going to be. So I'll defer to you as the chair.
All right, I will try to track down Chris and get her input as well to make sure that she's available, because I know she would like to be part of the discussion too. All right. So if you could have that information to me, let's say by Friday, and then I'll get back to you about what date we're going to meet and how. So thank you very much. If there's any other questions or comments about budget,
Just one more, I'm sorry. I'll defer.
I was just going to say, I want to just clarify the things that you listed as priorities are priorities to potentially add back in, not things that have been added in. Just want to clarify that
Yeah,
for folks who are listening, because
Thank you.
I just want to make sure it's not
So
confusing.
the number 4 on your list, nice program, will be,
Yes.
A and B will be grant funded. So that is no longer a need for further discussion.
Yep. Other things like the L positions, the
exactly.
kindergarten paras, the late
Right.
bus, those are priorities
Right.
to add back in. They are not added back in as of yet. So.
Yeah, the biggest issue that we have is is going to be the ELL situation, because if you want me to find $98,000 somewhere else, then I have to do that. My concern is that SOA money is very geared to EL, special ed, and ELL. I mean, it says it right in the introduction of the SOA plan, which we plan to bring to you as soon as your next meeting.
Yeah, we have it basically drafted, but if you look at the SOA, and this is what I don't think a lot of people understand, in terms of the allocation we received, we're accountable for the entire allocation in terms of how we spend it, and we'll be reporting year to year as to how it was utilized and the impact it had. So I know in our current budget, we haven't utilized the full amount. We really need to actually utilize the full amount and account for it, because that's why we received the funds from the state. This isn't just a normal Chapter 70 allocation, so I would encourage you to actually appropriate the full amount. And also in terms of specifically like the ELL teacher, when we determine the use for those funds, there's actually a tool, it's called the heat map, provided by the state, which we have to analyze and look for specific student groups that are most in need of support by utilizing those funds. And if you look at it, we have 2 groups that absolutely stand out. It's our English learners and our students with disabilities. So when you look at the plan we're bringing forward, they're specifically geared towards those kids within the focus areas provided by the state, and then we're citing specific evidence-based programs the state has identified that we have to utilize to address these kids' needs. So the SOA, although it comes in as Chapter 70 funding, it is not normal, regular Chapter 70 funding.
question, Amanda? Yes.
Your statement just indicates that we must ask for the rest of the SOA money, period, because we're accountable for it, and we have to report the use of the money, which obviously has to be for children.
Absolutely.
Just as a quick thing, to Jonathan's point and to Armando's point, the changing demographics of this district are telling me, and what I'm seeing in the projections, let's put the migrant situation here, I'm going to continue to say that, there's still 89 new ELs in the district, right? So what that tells me is this SOA money is needed there. Okay, that's your decision, and we'll deal with it whatever way. But more than likely, over the summer and into the fall, I'm going to be communicating with you that I need to hire yet another teacher, just based on what we're seeing. If it continues that way, I'm not going to hire somebody if I don't need to, but that's what we're seeing. The other one is that we really need to take a look at our out-of-district placement. We need to take a serious look at what we're doing in prioritizing our programs and what we're doing and so on and so forth. I have a meeting scheduled with Mr. Clark this Thursday, a working lunch. I then plan to hold a district-wide special education meeting. I will be bottom-up and top-downing some things, to be quite honest, because it's time to shake things up a little bit in some areas. We also need to have some real target and understanding of going out of district. We will always have kids going out of district. That's always going to happen. You can't stop that, but we need to prioritize our programs as well. So when we're transitioning from one grade to another school, elementary to middle school to high school, we have to make sure we have these programs in place. And in some instances we do. In some instances we're just getting bodies there now, so we need to make sure that we're doing that. And then the last part is transportation. You guys all know that's my pet peeve. It's, and I'm not talking about anything except that the vendors are really killing us. So I'm going to be having some discussions about looking at transportation from a number of different perspectives. We're averaging $250 to $300 a day. We have a McKinney-Vento bill right now that's $180,000. It's just, you know, you have a. Yes, yes, and it's a supply and demand, as you've heard me beat that drum since you met me back when I started with you. It's just a very unequitable, unfair situation to be quite honest, to the taxpayers. It's killing budgets where you can't put money into where you should be putting it. Our transportation situation right now with this $600,000 would be a whole different ballgame if it wasn't for transportation. And so we're going to be working with some folks to see if we can address that. I can guarantee you it can't be addressed in 1 year, but it doesn't mean it can't be addressed over a couple of years, and we can hopefully see some cost benefit where we can spend money where it needs to be spent. Thank you, Madam Chair.
All right, more to come on that. Also more to come on the joint discussions with Select Board, the working group. I was supposed to have a draft for you this meeting. I did not because this cold happened and I was unable to do much or talk to anybody this weekend. Yeah, this is day 5, so this is the best I've been in a couple days. I'm still working through just kind of the goals, the timeline. Would definitely appreciate any insight or input that anybody might have.
I do.
Yes.
The joint cost discussion?
Yes.
We have no money to jointly bear.
There is that as
So
well.
I'd make a motion to put an end to this committee, this group.
I'm willing to entertain that. I have not heard anything from the select board. That's why I have also not been very proactive. I'm sure now they will jump on it because certainly it's a real issue. I mean, other than asking for Medicare reimbursements, we don't really have much to gain from this discussion, and I think that
There's
is
no
certainly
money
a
to give.
goal. You know, if there's no gain to the school committee, then we don't agree on any of it. For the elementary school building project update and responsibilities, I have some updates there. The schematic design was submitted to the Massachusetts State Building Authority, the MSBA, on February 29th, 2024. Yay! The next step in that process is presenting it to the MSBA board later this month. I think March 27th is our date. So wish us luck. We had a community forum on Monday, March 4th at Town Hall. I want to thank the presenters and all who attended in person and online. We are definitely getting a lot of more participation on the hybrid or remote community forums, so that's been interesting to note. People can find recordings of that meeting and the slideshow that was presented on the new elementary school building project updates page on the Stoughton Public Schools website. Want to note that the building committee has drawn up a list of community groups to do this presentation to. So to the public, if you are a member of a community group, whether it's 2 people or 2,000, if you would like us to have present to this, please email the building committee through the website, and we'd be happy to come do the presentation to you. We are doing a presentation to the select board on Tuesday, March 19th, still to be determined. What time that is, if that's successful, we'll go before town meeting to present the project, and should it pass town meeting, there's a special election for that exclusion vote. We're targeting early to mid-June before people leave for the school. The next building committee meeting is tomorrow, Wednesday, March 13th at 7 p.m. here in the conference room, and we're preparing for the MSBA forum. Fabian's eyeing something in the corner there. Other matters, I want to thank all the parents, families, students, and community members who've reached out to us to express their concerns and support for programs and our staff during this budget season. We really appreciate you taking the time to share your thoughts. It's always helpful to hear from our constituents. On a fun note, Armando, Chris, and I read at the South School's Readers Are Leaders Day on March 1st. We missed you, Fabian. We missed you, Lindsay. I know you guys wanted to come too, so that was super fun. Did you have fun?
That was great.
It was
Loved
great. Yeah, this is it's absolutely wonderful to be in the classroom, actually get to talk to the students. Really helpful to remind ourselves why we do all of this. I want to thank Mr. Dorr and the South School staff and students for our fantastic time. Dr. Bayet already mentioned the Hall of Fame. I'm going to be attending that. That is open to the public, so any of the rest of you, if you would like to attend on Friday at 9 a.m. at the Stoughton High School, that you're welcome to do so. And a next meeting to be determined, but we do have a regular meeting scheduled for April 9th at 7 p.m. in the school committee conference room here at the district office. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All right, motion is made by Lindsay. A second?
Second.
Seconded by Armando. Maybe just a second, a roll call vote.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, this motion is carried 4-0. The meeting is adjourned at 9:48 p.m. Thank you all for coming and good night.